Welcome back to my studio. I'm starting on a new commission today. This is a little different from my last one that was the coast of France. Now we're in the hill country of Texas with blue bonnets here and cactus and a cowboy looking out. It's going to be early morning. The sun is just starting to rise and he stopped. He's out on an early morning ride, probably hunting some stray calves or something. And anyway, he's out and the sun's coming up and he just stops to pause and appreciate the beauty. So we start with the sky, and just to tell you, I have sketched in my initial sketch is mud, which is 2 parts ultramarine blue and 1 part of alizarin crimson. And I make a thin wash. I add liquid into that. And then I've sketched that up with a brush. So now with the sky, and it's still a little wet, so I have to be careful around my sketch. If this had dried overnight, I would be able to go over my sketch and erase off of it because that would be dry. But since I have just drawn this up here, even though it's another session, that underlying sketch is still a little bit wet. Now this is ultramarine blue plus white, and then as I come down, the sky gets a little bit lighter, and this is phthalo blue plus white. That's a little bit dark. I need to add a little more white into that. I pre-mix all my colors out on my palette so that I have everything I need. So if I need to make little adjustments, I can, but I've got all my basic colors mixed. So once I get going, I can just paint. I come down so the sky gets a little lighter toward the horizon. And I just feather these colors into each other. This is a bright brush. That means that it's got a square end. And it's synthetic. It's the bristles are synthetics. I don't like what they call bristle brushes. They're too stiff for me. I like the synthetic sable. It's a little bit more flexible, and I just prefer that. Everybody has different preferences in brushes, but that's what I prefer. So I just kind of come down. Not going to go down real far because the clouds in the sky are going to be full of color. So I just want to get my background in there and get that pretty smooth. And I just wipe my brush out and swish it in my thinner. I use Terpenoid odorless paint thinner. My studio is set up in my living room, so I don't want the smell of turpentine in the house. So that odorless paint thinner, the Terpenoid odorless paint thinner, is truly odorless. If you go to Home Depot or one of those places, unfortunately their odorless paint thinner is not odorless. It has a definite smell. Believe me, Jack and I've tried it. Now I begin with my darkest part of the clouds, and this is mud plus my little bit of ultramarine plus white. Now the sun's going to be coming up right here, but I want to get my dark clouds in first, and then the sunlight colors them, changes the color as they get closer. As you can see, I can just go over that blue, and by painting wet into wet, in other words, painting my clouds over that wet background, I can make the edges soft. My canvas is just a regular canvas. I have added a second coat of primer. I buy all of my canvases already primed, but then I add a second coat of primer with Liquitex white acrylic. It's Liquitex Basics is what it's called. And I do that because I like to have that little extra. It makes the canvas a little bit slicker, and I like it. It's easier to fill in all the little dips and holes and stuff on the texture of the canvas. You wonder what this noise is in the background. I'm changing out my tissue. My roll ran out, so I had to change that tissue. Usually I check that before I start recording a video, but I didn't, so you just have to put up with me changing it. These clouds are just making a nice diagonal across the sky. I want my dark to come in behind his hat. And like I say, that sketch is still wet, so I have to be very, very careful there. But I can take, you can see I can take the corner of that big brush and just work around that. A little bit smaller brush than the one I was using. Just enabled me to get in and around there. And we're going to have an oak tree, live oak tree coming up here. Okay, now the sun is in here, so these clouds are going to start getting a little redder. This is, I've added some alizarin crimson and white into that mud mixture. And so this starts, that sun starts influencing these clouds. And where the sun reflects up on the bottoms of these clouds, the bottom underneath gets a little bit of a touch of color. And I'm going to start. So I just bring some of this color up in here, and even with this large brush I can get around that hat. I just love getting up early in the morning and seeing that sun color of the sky. And I'm going to bring a few little sky holes in here, into the clouds. You have to kind of work back and forth, but you have to be careful when you're doing this, when you're adding the lighter color over that darker color, is to make sure your brush is clean. Then I can just soften those brush strokes. So I want those edges to be soft. Start coming around here. Now there's going to be a hill back there. My tree. Now this paint will be still wet for a couple of days, so I'll be able to come back and work the edges of that tree in pretty soft. Again, your soft edges go back, the harder, more defined and detailed edges come forward. Okay, so I'll work around this hat. Now I saved my color, so if I need to come back and repair edges or anything, I can. Now I'm going to get a little bit smaller brush here to work right in here. And I can just brace my hand on the canvas on a part that's not painted, so I'm not sure how far down you can see here, but like I could even brace it right here. And just again, this is a bright brush, but I just want to carefully work around my sketch. I worked too hard to get that hat right. So I don't want to mess it up. Around his face. His face will be in shadow from the hat. Now, we're getting a little closer to where the sun is. Get my brush out, change color. Now this is a mixture of my alizarin crimson color, plus I've added some cadmium red light, and I've added white into that. So now we're starting to get that really orangey, warm glow from the rising sun in here. And again, I'm going to bring some of that color underneath the clouds. It's just fun painting these kind of skies. That sun catches that, where the clouds go underneath, just catches that, makes a glow on them. Now this is farther away from the sun there, so I'm going to go ahead and let that get dark. And you have to get your dark pretty dark so those lights will, that light will show. Just kind of let that feather. Now, come back with this. It goes along my horizon. Now I'm going to let this start getting into the alizarin mixture a little bit darker here against his shirt. I'm going to go back to my smaller brush and be real careful here. I don't have, I showed you in the beginning the reference pictures that I'm using. Don't have real good reference, so I had to do a lot of kind of in my drawing, kind of working back and forth until I got it exactly the way I wanted to. The original picture was taken, into the sun, so there's really no detail showing on the horse and rider. So I have some other pictures of the horse and all that I can use for the details. Well, not for to get some of the markings of the horse and everything. Now I'm going to bring a little bit of this light in behind his hat here. That just helps. Bringing light in behind the dark just helps to give depth. Do some of this. And let's add a little of this cloud here because it's closer, so it's definitely going to get some of that highlight. Now, we're getting even closer to the sun, so this I've added the mixture that I was using in here, I've added some cadmium orange and white to that. So that even gets us a little more of a glow in this area where that sun is coming up. We'll bring some of that here. Bring a little bit of it right up into these clouds. A little bit right there. And a little bit just right here. Now, our sun, I've added this now, the color I'm using here, I've added some cadmium yellow medium and white into that, and that's where our sun's going to come in here. Use a little bit bigger brush here, because I want to feather this in. I want this to kind of be a glow into this area here. Just kind of smooth those colors together. Let's bring a little bit of this just right here. And we'll bring a little bit behind. Again, just to give the feeling of depth there. Now, I'm going to add some more. Now that yellow mixture, I'm going to add a little more white to it. And I'm going to make our sun. Our sun's just popping over the horizon, or not the horizon, the mountains. I guess you'd call that the horizon anyway. And so there's our sun. Now I'm going to make a mixture of my mud plus a little ultramarine blue. This is going to be my most distant mountain. And here we go here. And this is the sun's coming in behind this, coming up right here. Oops, my battery ran out on me, so it cut me off in the middle of what I was doing. But I noticed it pretty quick, so anyway, I just about done here pretty much, but with this part. But I soften that edge of the hills back there. Just I run my brush, clean brush, over that junction because they're in the distance, so I want that to be soft. And they can just almost even fade into the sky there. I don't want a real distinct edge. And they'll just come in behind that tree. You'll see some of that through the tree. And again, I want to soften this top edge. And with my sky paint wet, it's just very easy to soften that. Now, under the sunshine there, it's going to get a little lighter because the sun's fading that out. Bleeds that area out. Again, I want to and I pull from the light area into the darker area to soften that edge. And I have to be careful here. I clean my brush every time. I just want a little bit of that sky color to come into my hill there. Because that sunlight influences and warms that hill right in there. I just lightly drag my brush over. And here's I'm going to soften the edge of that sun just a little bit. And it just makes a little extra little glow right in here. Catching on the clouds, just right above. And now add some white to that, and we're going to just. And now this hill, I'll come back and do this, but this hill will come down like so. So that sun's just peeking through. It's the beginning of a new day. I really appreciate you watching my YouTube videos, and please subscribe to my channel. Also, if you want to follow the entire step-by-step process of this painting, visit my blog. The link is in the description below. The address is on the final frame of my video. And there you'll see the complete process of the painting. And that way I know a lot of people will ask, oh, well, where's the rest of this painting? And I want to see how it finishes. Well, if you'll just go to my blog, you can see that. And I really appreciate you watching today. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I hope you'll come back again soon and visit the studio.